All right, everybody, we are about to go live. We are waiting for those notifications to go out so that you can join us for tips and tricks in FCS Express to help improve the efficiency of your analysis and generating those publication ready reports. We'll get started here in just about 5 minutes. So if you can just give us 5 minutes to get started, hopefully we'll have some people join us for this live stream. All right, everybody, we're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. Hopefully those notifications to join us live have gone out. We're going to be presenting tips and tricks in FCS Express today to help improve the efficiency of your analysis. During this session of Ask an Expert, my colleague Holly Bonar will be with me to talk about some of her favorite shortcuts and some of her tips and tricks that help improve her analysis. And we'll just be kind of going back and forth and discussing things that have come up with our customers that have been useful in helping establish their analysis as well. We are almost at the top of the hour. We're going to get started with our tips and tricks in FCS Express. We want to give you the shortcuts to benefit and make your analysis efficient and get those desired results, get to your desired results more quickly. All right, we have arrived. So we're going to go ahead and get started with Ask an Expert. My name is Robin Kamucheka, and I'm a technical application specialist with Denovo Software. Today, I'm joined by my colleague, Holly Bonar, and she's going to be going through this with me today. We're going to talk about the tips and tricks that are most effective for what we do in the analysis and how we get through our own analysis and build our own analysis strategies, as well as generating those publication-ready reports. Hey, Holly, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Robin. How's it going?
I'm doing well. So today is our fun and flow, go with the flow Friday. So I thought I would start with a little bit of a funny here. We have our little cell that's all ready for the flow cytometer, and then the cell who has not gotten any uh, of the panel has says, "You look ridiculous." So we gotta love those attention-loving cells. Moving into our next thing, we're gonna start talking about those tips and tricks that are really gonna help you move forward in FCS Express and get to your analysis, get the things you want to accomplish with your analysis done quickly. So my favorite thing that I always bring up is using these FCS Express user options. There are so many of them that we're going to be really brief here. That's why I've introduced it in an image and I'm not opening it. I'll show you how to open it in the software, but there are so many different layers of things that you can set. And this is really, if you take your time setting up these user options, it creates a user option file for you. So every time you log into FCS Express, whether you've set a plot design or a font or specific statistics to be displayed, FCS Express is going to remember that for you and it's going to apply those things. We also have the ability to do data loading for instrument specific settings. So you can put in some specific ways that you want to display your data for your instruments. Another way to really cut down and optimize your time that you spend in FCS Express. I'm going to go ahead and open that. Holly, what do you think about our user options?
I love the user options because this is like, oh, do I hate that about the software? Because most of the time, if you hate something about the software, there's going to be some way you can come in here and do something to make you not like it or to make you to not hate it. So if you don't like that default plot that shows up, you can go in and change that if you
Right.
want to.
Or you don't like how the statistics are displayed by default, you can change that. We can tell the software exactly what statistics we want to display when we right click on a plot. So there's tons of things here. I will always point out the instrument specific settings because these are just super helpful if you're using an instrument that we already know there might be some differences from on instrument acquisition software to FCS Express. We've got some of those instruments in here. You can always add your own instrument setting. And again, that just tells FCS Express how to load your data so it makes sure that when it's displaying on those plots, it's really optimized to what makes it feel good for your analysis.
Yep. The other thing I like before you close real quick, the other thing I like to point out because people don't realize it and it's such a time saver is the files and directories section. So you can, if you're constantly navigating to a folder for your data files and it's like 6 or 7, like if you're working off of a network location and it's 6 or 7 folders in, that's totally annoying over time. But you can use that default directory for data files to get closer to where your files are going to be. And that way that it becomes a huge time saver over time and people don't realize that it's even here, that it's an option. So you can do that for data files, you can do it for layouts. Anything to kind of like cut down on that time you're spending navigating to things.
That is such a great tip, Holly. I actually use the default template file myself because I like to work left to right. So I like the orientation to be in that landscape orientation. You can load a template file that just has that or has some introductory plots to have a layout kind of strategy or analysis strategy already getting started. So that was a
Yep.
great tip. Thanks so much, Holly.
Mhm.
Moving on to some other tips, we have a bunch of keyboard shortcuts. These are super great. They are usually applicable from other places like the Control C to copy or the Control V to paste, but we also have some that may be a little bit unique to our own software. So this is just a great resource if you are a keyboard shortcut kind of person. This is a great list. So we also have this available listed in our manual. So I'm going to bring that up really quick. So if you're ever wondering, like, where can I find this information? It's right here in our manual. You can look it up, find those shortcuts, use them, and optimize, the time that you're spending in FCS Express. I tend to really use the Control A. You're going to see that later in my presentation. That will select everything that's on a given page. I use Control C and Control V a lot. Those are my favorites, but you do have a lot of options if you are kind of a keyboard shortcut kind of person. Holly, what are your favorite shortcuts?
So I'm not as much of a keyboard shortcut kind of person, and mostly it's because I can't remember what they are. So it's really nice that it's in our manual and you can bookmark that so that you can get to it quickly if you are like me and you cannot remember things. But I definitely do Control C and Control V because those are these shortcuts generally work across other applications as well. So this is not just an FCS Express thing a lot of times. A lot of times it works, you know, in Office products and things like that. And then fun fact for Friday, you can do Windows key and period in order to get emoji, the little emoji selections to come up. So if you want to put some emojis into your layout, you can totally do that, which I think is kind of cool.
That's right. And we're going to actually show that later because it is fun and going with the flow Friday. So moving on, we're going to talk about our data list. So our data list is absolutely a really functional piece of the software. It's not just a static item where I can bring data files in. It can do so much for us and really optimize how we're using our data files, how we're managing them, how we're sorting them and arranging them. So I'm going to go ahead and just use this plus icon to bring in data first. What this will do will bring me to the last folder that I was in, and you'll be able to see I have my data sets here. So if I were already in a data set, it would already open this and I would just be able to pull these. I can select many data files here to bring in multiple data files. I can even do a virtual merge. So if I'm bringing data into this space for the first time and I'm like, hey, I want a merged file, but don't want to commit to making another FCS file, do a nice virtual merge and see how it works for you, right? Like we don't want to make using the software difficult. We want to give you options to look at your data in ways that make sense to you. So I'm going to just open them so that they all come back in individuals and you'll see that they've loaded here. Once in the data list, you're not committed to how they came from the folder. If I wanted to reorder this so that my tube ones were together, my tube twos, I could do that very easily just by using up and down arrows. I can also drag and drop. We could have a lot of features here to sort. So even if I made these changes and it was like, nope, maybe that's not the way to go, I want to change them back, I can use that file name, click on it really quickly, it resets them and puts them in a different order here. You can also, and double click it again, it'll reverse that order for you. So you have lots of ways to organize that. We have the ability to bring in keywords. So if I had some keywords that I'm using from, that I had inserted from the instrument, I can look at these keywords and bring them right into this data list to help me have a little bit more information in that data list to help me organize that. FCS Express is really awesome in that we can add extra keywords without modifying the raw data. So from that keyword file, you would also see anything that we've added. So here I have like sample ID is something that I added from a keyword file. And you can bring these in and use them just as like if they were part of your initial analysis, but again, does not affect that raw data file.
Yeah, and these can be really helpful too, Robin. You know, when you've only like you've got 6 files here, like that's not too hard to manage. But if you're doing things like running 96 well plates of data and you've got 96 files, or if you've got 4 plates worth of data, that's a lot of data files. And so being able to add those keywords in to sort them into groups easily without, you know, having to give these files really, really long names and things like that, it can really be helpful and kind of help you get organized really quickly for big data sets.
Absolutely. And then one of my favorite things about our data list is being able to pull from multiple folders at the same time. So what I can do, use that little magnifying glass there. I can use this browse feature, go to my desktop here, go to the correct folder, and I just pick the parent folder. So this would be the bigger folder here. I select that folder. As long as this include subfolders option is checked, it will look for folders for me through all these different folders. And so it will take a second to find those folders and get the data out. So it's going to do a quick check. But as soon as it has them, it'll load them in for me. So now I can see all the data files that it grabbed from the different data sets that I have available in my Go Live folder here. And then I can just grab the data files that I want, quickly use that down arrow, click OK, and I've brought a bunch of data in really quickly without having to go through and manage a bunch of different folders. So I really like that feature. That happens to be one of my favorites. And I'm going to go ahead and use my file name to kind of order these as well, and then just show you that drag and drop moving my data file to a new place. You do have to, sometimes it will drag a little slow for me. There we go. We'll just do this. I'll use my arrows because my drag does not want to seem to drag. And there we go. So we have that order. Oops, looks like my A and B got switched down here. A, B, 1, 5, and 10. Perfect. So I've kind of reorganized my data. Now I want to talk a minute about panels. Panels can be really great in helping organize our data as well. We want to be able to manage our data and use it in the most efficient way. We've done a great thing and added this ability to have stationary controls. And so now if I'm using something that I need to use as a control to compare a histogram or some kind of display to, I can put that in my software really quickly. I'm going to do a two file panel here and just add one stationary control. I have a control here and then I have a treatment A and treatment B. I like to always populate this so that I know which files and which samples are going where. Just helps me keep really organized in my data list. And then when I click OK again, it's going to automatically reorganize that data for me. It's going to put those panels here. So I have A and B for day 1, day 5, day 10. They're all in their own individual panel here. And then to activate that, of course, I just need to drag and drop out a data file here and choose a density plot. I love this drag and drop feature. You don't get stuck with just using one plot. You can do as many or as few plots that you want at the same time. You can introduce that plot, and then as soon as I have this plot set, all my iterations are active. Iterations are how FCS Express uses batch processing to move your data through our batch processing and create those reportables like PDFs and PowerPoints and Excels. So the software is super efficient at getting those reportables. Using panels can really help you. I actually have a little trick that I use too with my templates. Even if I'm not using a panel per se, I'm looking at each data file individually. I create what I call a load panel. So it just has one tube. And this way, when I introduce my data files, it will just load that one sample automatically without me having to double click on it or use the data list to introduce my samples. I just automatically, the software is like, oh, we have a sample. We're just going to load it on all of the plots and I'm good to go. And I can just start moving through and looking at my gates.
Yeah, I like to think of panels also. So panels are sometimes a misnomer, right? So sometimes people feel like they're not actually running a panel, like you just said. But I like to think of the panel feature as like teaching the software where you want things to go. So just like you said, you can have like a 1-2 panel, and really it's because you've taught the software that I want my file to go into these plots, and that way it'll do it automatically, and it's such a time saver.
Absolutely. And I love that, right? Anything that I can cut down and kind of, work with or just optimize. So I don't want to spend a whole lunch doing, my analysis. So if I have these little tips and tricks, I can cut that down really quickly. So I'm going to go ahead back to that panel. Another feature I like is you can turn things on and off with this checkbox. I don't need to use this panel anymore. I can just click OK and be done with it. I don't have to go back and worry about it. It's still there if I want to use it again in the future, but then I can just move on with my analysis. So in here, I'm going to do a couple of new things here. I'm going to just add this data file back into a density plot. Um, and then we're just going to do some cool things. So I'm going to just move back to iteration. We always have these toggles here at the top on our data ribbon where we can move data using this double arrow. This section here, the change data on selection, I say use with caution, just because if I use that, it will change it on this one plot and I could possibly disrupt my iterations. And what that would look like is if I change it here, and change it a couple of times here, you'll see in my data list now I've got some gray samples. And what happened is my software was expecting each data file to be used everywhere through my analysis. And when I switched that, then it was like, I can't keep that pattern for you. And so if you ever see that, don't worry. A quick way to resolve that is look at your data navigator. You'll see right away where things are being shown and used. And so you can go to the plot where you've got that disconnect, and then you can be like, oh, that's where the disconnect is. Great, I can fix that really quick because the software will also just pick those plots for you without you having to do a lot of work. So if I realize, okay, just have the wrong sample in the wrong place here, when I update that, move the sample where it needs to be, my iterations are intact now, they're all active and will move through the software. Now, my favorite thing about building things really fast is the ability to use multiple duplicated next. If I were using all of these files in the same place, maybe I was doing, something where I wanted to see every iteration side by side. If I go to my home tab, I can use this little down arrow next to my duplicate option here, do multiple duplicate next. The software is very kind to me and will ask how I want to do this. Do I want to use all of the things that are available in my data list? And where do I want to place them? Do I want to put them here on the same page or do I want to add a page? I love this because it gives me a lot of flexibility and I can tell the software like, hey, I want a new page and I want it to look like this. So I can really define these options and get what I want really fast. When I click OK, I can get that page created really quickly. And now I've got every sample being displayed with a given uh, display, right, all at the same time. So here I want to show one of my shortcuts. So I use Control A lot. This selects all of these plots for me automatically. I don't have to do a lot of kind of waiting around individually holding down that Control key and selecting them. And this also opens the opportunity for me to make changes to all of these plots very quickly. So if I wanted to change this, we're going to do a forward scatter here, and we're going to do a side scatter here. I can update all of my plots with just a couple of clicks. If I wanted to add a gate, if I had started my gating hierarchy, I could use this to add my gates as well. So it gives you a lot of flexibility to format things very quickly and easily over many plots without having to do a lot of kind of the back and forth to get this done. And then if I had a summary page like this that I wanted to use kind of a one-off thing just so people could compare really quickly what things look like side by side, I can also uncheck this box. Now the software knows that these are just kind of, I just wanted to see this really quickly. I can still use my iterations here in my data list. So these other data files will still move through the rest of my analysis. This page will become stationary. So the plots will keep these data files displaying on these plots. Moving back to our page here, we also have the ability to do end-by-end plots. I love these. These are great for compensation. These are great when you just want to kind of see what's happening over the course of all of your parameters. You're not limited here to just using compensation plots. You can do all parameters by X. You can make histograms. You can do a lot of things really quickly. And that's about efficiency, right? We just want to be able to get the things done that we need to do really quickly. So here I'll just introduce those end-by-end plots and show you what that looks like. And here, of course, as you have more parameters, these are going to get smaller, so you will see that. But it gives you a nice overview. I get to look at a lot of things really quickly. They are grouped initially, so if I pick more than one plot here, you will see that the whole thing is grouped, but you can ungroup these and start working with these plots individually.
Yep. It's important to remember these are actual plots, right? They
Yep.
look, it looks like a static picture that you can just make bigger or smaller, but they are plots, and you can do all the same things on them that you can do with regular plots. You can put a gate on it if you want to. You can maximize them. You can format them. So it really makes them really helpful for not just looking at compensation, although it's definitely great for that, but like just looking at all the patterns across all of your different parameters and looking for things that might be of interest to you. So.
Absolutely. That was super great. Thanks, Holly. That's, I always forget to mention that because some people do just see those
Yeah,
images and
because it
they're
kind
like,
of looks like a picture because it doesn't have axes and things there, but they're gates just like anything else, or plots just like anything else.
right, we're going to go ahead and delete those to give me some more space. Another thing that we like to talk about is sometimes we don't like this kind of default plot arrangement style. No worries. You can always customize this. We have so many different formatting tubes. So if you don't like the way that we have the title, or if you don't want to see a certain font, we have the flexibility to customize all of those things. We can take the border off of the whole plot. If you're not filling the border, whatever you need to do to customize this plot and really make it feel like it's representing your data well, we have those tools available for you. And the best news is after you've set that all up and taken the time to manage that, if you right click, you can set this as a default or set this as a plot theme. So they do very similar things. What it does is tells the software exactly how you want this plot to look. If I right click and set it as a default, it does in the background kind of do like a customize remembering protocol. If I do a save as plot theme, I actually get to name it. So then when I go back into those user options, I can find that plot theme here. And it looks like my software is taking a moment to save. And that's one of the other features that we can bring up right now is that the software does have the ability to autosave. So if you're working on things and, sometimes I get really distracted, I'm really deep into my own gating thing. And then suddenly I'm like, oh man, I haven't saved in like 45 minutes and I'm now 5 pages deep, you can tell the software just to remember to save for you. So I'm going to bring us back into those user options to just show you where those plot themes are. If we click on plots, right here, you'll be able to manage those things. So as you see, my new theme that I set as default here is as custom. I have some other settings here. So if I'm going to a workflow, you can see what that looked like from a previous setting here. Oops. Right, so it had a little bit different. I have some shading, some gradients here. Again, this just helps you optimize whatever looks good for your data and gives you the ability to format things really quickly. Now, gates, we always get into this a little bit with gates. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time because in getting started in other webinars and things, we have a little bit more information. But what is important here is that we talk about how to manage gates, right? Because sometimes I will get a gate and it will look really good for a given sample. And then I get to another sample and it's like, man, that gate position is just not it. So in FCS Express, to optimize this, we have the ability to create a gate for one population on a plot here. I'm going to name it just simple here and keep it as gate 2. But also all of our windows that come up for formatting and things are so multifunctional. And that's another place where you can really optimize your time. You're not looking for another window to uh, add things, right? It's just right there already in a window. I'm going to right click to show that gate. And then I'm going to right click to show that text box as well. And then we see here, maybe on this plot, I want this gate to extend a little differently. So I have my control here, I have my separate plot here. I just go either hold my shift key, so I can hold my shift key, that's another keyboard shortcut, or I can go to my my gating tab and do the data specific gate. And then I'm a visual person, so then you can see that this now moves independently. I've adjusted this gate here, but not this. And if I go to a new iteration, you'll see that my sample is not losing. So this is the same sample here that was on the previous one that was over on this plot here. Now you can see now that that gate is still reserved as I move to the next one, but then it's universal for my other plots, right? And that's what's important here. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete this plot so I can reconnect my iterations and everybody is active over there. Holly, what do you think about data-specific gates and iteration snapshots? I didn't really get into iteration snapshots, so maybe you can share a little bit about how that helps you in your analysis.
So I like data-specific gates on that section. I think you still have that page on there on page 1 when you did the duplicated next.
Yep.
So you've got all your files here. You can put one of your gates on there, and that can kind of instantly show you where you might want to make a data-specific gate or where you want to leave it the same, right? Because you can see all of your files next to each other. And you can go, oh, yep, all of my staining or my scatter is consistent from file to file, and I can stick with my universal gate. Or I can instantly see that, file number 4 is kind of squashed down there on the bottom and it might need an adjustment, and I can just adjust that gate. And that way you can really see across all your data files, what your patterns look like and whether those gates need to be adjusted. Rather than clicking through one by one and going, is that the same? Is it different? What gate do I have here? You can instantly kind of see, okay, these 2 guys are outliers. I'm going to fix the gates here. These other guys are good for my universal gates.
That's super awesome. So last thing we're going to touch on, I know we're kind of at that 20-minute mark. If you could just give us a couple more minutes just to get a couple more things in for you, we're going to talk a little bit about tokens. So tokens are a really awesome way to do a lot of things really quickly, control visibility, add functions in formula, check boxes, edit boxes. We can do a whole lot of things with these. So I really like to kind of show off our tokens because I think it's an amazing thing, and a lot of other softwares just don't have this capability. So I've introduced this token initially just to kind of give us something that we can see, but if I right click, I can format it. I can change this display type. So I can do an edit box. This allows me to manually introduce information. So I can change this and put in information that would be useful for an experiment. I could still put a label over here, like if I wanted to do patient name or what have you, whatever label that would work for this box, and still have a manual entry. And now this token, it could be also pulled into different places. So I would create this entry here, and then everywhere else I could use this token throughout my layout. I am a big fan of checkboxes because 1, I think they're really fun, and 2, like you can control visibility with these checkboxes. You can show pages and things, and that's just a really nice function. So it will show the name of your token, so you want to optimize that and make sure that it's relevant to whatever you want to be checked or unchecked, but then you can control other things to happen or not happen based on this. And to kind of bring this to like reportables, it's really nice if you connect this to like a reportable, and if something happens, then it reports, if this box is checked, then I'm going to batch out these things. If it's not checked, then I'm going to batch out those things. And we have folders for that. So I think that's really super good.
Checkboxes are really nice. So they do double duty. I mean, so you can have this one checkbox that does a whole bunch of different things all at the same time. So it can batch out, it can turn on a gate, it can turn on a plot, it can turn on a page all at the same time. So once you have that token built as a checkbox, you can kind of hack your whole layout to look differently depending on whether that checkbox, that one single checkbox, is turned on or turned off. So checkboxes are one of my very favorite things.
And then another favorite of Holly's, I know this is a favorite of Holly's, is if-then statements. So we have the ability to tell the software to look at conditional things and going on in our analysis, whether it's a statistic, whether it's, our plots displaying the same data file, any of those things, we can start building out this token. So this will be an if, and then we can insert a condition. So we can right click, insert a statistic token, whatever would be useful for us here. We can grab those plots. We'll be able to see those plots, which is really nice, right? So these are where we have our different samples. So maybe I'm going to start with something that's a control file here, and I can grab a statistic. So I'll maybe just grab, I think, gate 1 and do maybe number of events. And then I can do maybe like a less than 150, right? That might be problematic. And close that out. Then, and I can tell the software what I want to see. If it's less than 150, then say unacceptable or
Else.
sorry.
Sorry. Else.
Or Robin's head is working today, or acceptable, right? So if I'm only looking for 150 cells, I know that's a pretty low requirement there, but then I can just, when I use this token, then I can report it. Now, I will say that I don't use these quite as frequently, so sometimes the nomenclature or the actual syntax of introducing this formula can be a little bit challenging. Hopefully I got it right, and I did. I got the acceptable response, which means that I have more than 150 cells, so I'm really rocking out, having a great flow Friday with you guys. So I really appreciate your time today. So that kind of gives us an idea of some of the things that we can do. The last thing that we were talking about, Holly, is really used a lot, the customized ribbon features. If you right click on our ribbons, you can also optimize a given ribbon or give yourself a quick access toolbar. So I'm going to show our quick access toolbar below the ribbon. It does have our save here and undo redos automatically, but you can build this out. So I can further customize this ribbon and add different tools here that are going to be useful to me. So I have one access bar where I can do everything that I need to do. And
Yep.
Holly's going to give you more about that because she uses that more than I
Yeah,
do.
so this goes with my, how I can't remember the command, the keys, the keyboard shortcuts. It's also because sometimes I can't remember where things are located in the big tool, the big ribbon thing up there. So I like to create the quick access bar, because then I just put all the tools that I use frequently on this one quick access bar, and then I'm not having to go to all the different tabs. And so if you can see on the left-hand side where it says choose commands from, everything's sorted by the tabs that are already up there. So there's the insert tab, there's the design tab, things like that. But if you change that drop down on the left, Robin, where it says all tabs to all commands, that's every single button that is in the software. So whatever buttons you're using on whatever tabs, anywhere that you're using it constantly, you can move it over to quick access if you want, or you can even create your own tab if you want, to really sort of customize the things that you're doing. So if you're somebody who's building a lot of layouts, you may need things like that align button or the font button because you're changing that all the time. Or if you're somebody who's only batching things out, you can put the lightning bolt for run on there so that you don't have to go to the batch tab every time. I found that once I got my quick access bar customized to the way I wanted, I was rarely having to go to any of the big tabs and the big sections in the ribbon to go find things, because most of the things I was doing, I had in my quick access bar. So this is similar to what you can do in other like Office products as well. So in PowerPoint and Word, quick access is part of that. So, take advantage of that, not only here, but everywhere else, because it really saves you a lot of time from doing things. And then if for some reason my access bar got turned off, it was like somebody chopping off my hand. Like I suddenly didn't know where to find anything anymore. But
I can totally get that.
yeah, it's really, really useful though. I love the quick access bar for sure.
That's great. And I didn't even know that you could use the drop down to use all commands. So I totally learned a tip and trick
Yeah,
today
so
myself.
if you forget, like if you're like me and you don't know where even though our our tab and ribbon system is super intuitive, right? So insert tab is all the things you can insert. Sometimes your mind just goes blank about where to find those things. And so, stuff you're doing all the time, put it on that quick access bar and then you don't have to worry about it. And when you do the all commands, they're listed in alphabetical order. So you don't have to know what ribbon they're on or what tab they're on to find them. You just kind of have to know what they're called. So,
I love that.
yep.
All right, guys. So we have met the end of our session today. We are so grateful that you joined us. We hope you enjoyed this live stream. If you have a topic suggestion, please reach out. We want to make sure that we're meeting you where your needs are. We want to make sure that we're giving you the things that you need for to be successful with your analysis in FCS Express. If you have any follow-up questions, maybe you didn't have a chance to chat with us today. If you have any follow-up questions, or I would just like to add that the best tip and trick that we have in FCS Express is our task team. We have a bunch of amazing people that are really dedicated to making sure that you get the most out of your FCS Express. So please, please, please contact us at support@denovosoftware.com. We're going to get you the analysis that you need. We're going to get you the support that you need. And we're going to make sure that we can really give you the tips and the tools and the features and capabilities of the software to take your analysis to that next level. I want to thank you again for your time. Thank you, Holly, for being on this call with me today. I always appreciate our time that we get to spend together. If you haven't downloaded FCS Express yet, we do have a free trial download for 30 days. You can check us out, see if we can offer you something for your own analysis. And if you have any other questions, please reach us out to us at support@denovosoftware.com. And you can always come check out our website too at denovosoftware.com. We've got a lot of videos and resources to kind of give you a little bit more about all of the things that FCS Express can do for you. I will stick around for just a moment more to see if anybody has any questions for me. If you want to talk about anything, it has been such a pleasure being with you today. I hope that you found something useful. And if you haven't been able to attend today, this is going to be put up. It's quick, short, and I hope that you get to see the things that you need. All right. Have a great day. Happy Friday, everybody. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Everyone.